Hello everyone, Navinold here, and today I will tell you the story of the Boar Rider. The story of the Boar Rider began with a huge city in Clash of Clans. Legends were made about the king of that eternal city because he was extremely cruel and greedy. He constantly raided various villages for profit. Over time this became not enough for him, and he decided to fight against other huge cities to steal more and more gold, but for this he needed a strong army consisting of terrible monsters. Dragons, but no one from that huge city could tame a single dragon. Even a magician couldn't do it. And then the king said if you don't find a person who can tame dragons, every third soldier will be burned at the stake. The whole city was in a panic. Everyone started looking for a person who will be able to tame a dragon. 3 days have passed. No one could find a person who was able to tame a dragon when suddenly one of the soldiers remembers that during the next attack on the village, they saw a bearded soldier with a hammer flying on a dragon during the attack. Everyone thought that it was just a mirage, but now they were on the verge of life and death. They decided to find this soldier. No one believed that it was really a soldier and a mirage. But there was nothing more to do. They decided to look. They searched all the mountains, but they never found that soldier when suddenly they saw the shine of a hammer from the entrance to some cave. They were very afraid to enter there. But there was no choice after they entered the cave. It slammed shut like a mousetrap. All the soldiers were in panic. At the end of the cave, snoring could be heard. The further they went deeper the cave, the brighter it became, and finally they saw a sleeping dragon, from which, when he snored, a fire of ware came out, and under his wing was that same bearded warrior. The soldiers were glad that they had found him, and that after all it was not a mirage. They dared to wake up the sleeping warrior, and having gathered the courage, they explained to him who they were and why they came here. To their surprise, this warrior was very calm, just like his dragon. Until that moment they had never seen a dragon. Having the opportunity to feast on them, they did not do it. A bearded warrior nicknamed the Dragon Rider agreed to help them and tame several dragons for them. A week has passed. The Dragon Rider became the chief commander of that huge city, and he was not the only soldier who dined with the king. The king gave him a small village in which the rider was the king. He took great care of his people and taught them how to tame animals. But the Dragon Rider could not constantly be present in his village since he served the king. He tamed 7 dragons, with the help of which the king managed to defeat more than one during the war. Everything would have been fine if a witch had not appeared on the battlefield in the next raid on an enemy village, who had clouded her head with her black magic with a dragon. They became brutal and turned on the king and began to burn all the king's troops. The king and some part of the army managed to escape. It was a shame for the king, who was famous for his cruelty, to escape from the battlefield. He was furious and ordered the horsemen to be burned at the stake by the next morning. In the meantime, let this slave graze the boars. The soldiers took the horsemen to the pasture. The rider was surprisingly calm and carried out his duties in the pasture. He decided to try to tame the boar, but it was not easy since the boar was very stupid. But still he succeeded. He continued to train despite the fact that he had only a few hours left to live. In the morning they brought him a letter in which it was written that the king decided to give him a chance to survive if he could wrestle his son in his arms. In fact, this letter meant that he did not have long to live. Since no one was able to wrestle in his arms, the king's son, even among the giants, since the rider had been working in the pasture all day yesterday, he decided to take a bath. His tamed boar was soaping his back, and finally the rider was taken to the city to fight in his arms with the king's son. This was the last chance to survive, although it was unrealistic, but there was hope dies last. They began to fight when suddenly the rider heard a cry for help coming from his village, coming on the wind. He weakened his hand and lost. But he didn't care. He sat on a boar and galloped through the guards to his village. As it turned out the day before, he sent his village a carrier pigeon which delivered a letter to the village, and it described in detail how to tame wild boars, and his best students did it. When the rider ran, he made strange sounds with his mouth, meaning an urgent gathering of all the soldiers of the village on the way to the village. He gathered all the soldiers and was able to safely break the enemy. The city in which he was almost executed was attacked by the very dragons who were drugged by the witch. The effects of her spell ended, and the dragons flew to take revenge for the attempt to kill the horsemen. They incinerated the entire city to the ground and flew to the village to the horsemen. The horseman thought that these were the king's new troops and was ready to take the blow with his students, but when he saw the dragons, he realized that these were the same dragons he had tamed. They flew up to him and bowed their heads, after which the horseman was no longer in danger. But since no one saw him on a dragon, except the population of the city, which had already been incinerated, all the people began to call him a boar rider. Thank you for your attention. If you liked it, please like it and subscribe to the channel.